Welcome back to Words from the Scribe, everybody. And today my guest is a colleague of mine, a guy that I had the good fortune of meeting just a couple of weeks ago down at our BX Cronulla lunch group, but I have been speaking to him for a while. And after our chat the other week, I started thinking to myself that I wanted to speak with him a bit more so that you guys could just hear about Peter's experience and his knowledge and how he might be able to help somebody just like you. So without any further ado, guys, please give a big hand at home for Peter Swatosch from Focal Point Coaching. How are you going today, Peter?
I'm going great, Ben, and thanks for that introduction. Very nice, thank you.
No, happy to do so, Peter. Like I said, just based on our chat the other week after the BX Cronulla lunch group, I remember we were just talking about a few different things, and some of it was stuff that I knew about, like your background as a mechanic and that sort of stuff. But there were just little things lighting up, and I thought this would actually be really interesting and gives you the opportunity to talk a bit about how you can help people and a bit about your background. And now I know that there might well be people sitting at home right now, and we're in uncertain times for a lot of businesses, but they could really use the help of somebody like you. So here we are, and thanks again for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. But just so that you can, you could explain it better than anybody else could, Peter, but what kind of service do you provide for clients?
Probably my main focus with my clients is one-on-one coaching. And with that, I basically get them to be accountable for actually doing stuff. We make goals, and then we work around the strategies to help them achieve those goals, help them create their vision for their business, which sometimes, people might not have had it. They might have forgotten it if they've been in business for a long time, to actually, see where you want to go. And I sort of, think of it a bit like going on a road trip where, what's the first thing you want to do when you go on a road trip is know, where do you want to go? And if you haven't got that plan in your head where you actually want to end up, well, any road will take you anywhere, and it doesn't matter what road you take. So I find that to be really the most important thing that I help my my clients with.
You're essentially giving them a roadmap, you said.
A roadmap for their business, yes.
Oh,
and
fantastic.
helping them plan the route when things go wrong. You might have to take a bit of a detour, and it's all part of the planning process.
That's it. Well, I think I said to you the other week, and this is a saying that I put in one of my articles. I think it was my last article for 2019, just talking about little things that I've learned since starting Scribe up as a business. But one of the things I put there was that there's more than one road to the Holy Grail. Did I say that to you the other week? Was that something I said?
I think you did, and that did really resonate with me. That was a really profound, really like that, yes.
Yeah. That there, because just you, again, talking about roadmaps and that sort of stuff made me think of it. But I'm interested in something, Peter. It looks like you've got two clocks behind you on that wall. Is that right?
They are, but this is a virtual background. sorry to
Okay.
blow your thunder there.
Oh no, that's all right. That's all right. I thought there might have been some interesting philosophy behind having two clocks, but I guess I'll have to ask the person whose room that is.
Well, I do actually monitor US time quite a bit. Focal Point is actually a US-based company. We do have ongoing training going all the time, which comes out of the US. So, like for example, I was up at 6 a.m. this morning on a call. So yeah, I do have to monitor the times over there quite closely sometimes.
Okay. So if you're a US-based company, I'm assuming that you work with clients over there. You're more an international business than a strictly local business, I suppose?
No, sorry, just to clarify that, I'm definitely a local business. Focal Point is US-based. We have an area representative here in Australia, and I'm part of the group that is here in Australia, and I'm definitely local business. Yeah.
Okay.
So my area is to work with any business within Australia.
Okay, within Australia. So you take on clients who are interstate, and if somebody's, for instance, over in WA, you have no problem working with them?
Now with Zoom, I found, especially since COVID hit, I'm becoming quite proficient with Zoom. I found it works really well with my clients' engagement. I really, I don't have a problem with it at all. It works really well. So yes, I can work with anyone, anywhere.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I've spoken about it a bit myself, but I've really found the same thing with Zoom. I mean, before this year, I'd use it just for sitting down with, leads and one-on-one client meetings, that sort of stuff. But it's just been fantastic to be able to network with so many other people that I otherwise would have had to go and buy a plane ticket and get accommodation for. And it's nice to have a trip away, but it sure does make it convenient when you can sort of talk with people, not just Australia-wide, but you can talk with people worldwide, and you don't have to leave your office.
Exactly right. Like I said, the call that I was on this morning was a training call, and there was people there from Canada, from all over the USA, from Melbourne. There's a guy there from Adelaide. Yeah, all on that same call. So yeah, amazing technology, and in this day and age, I think people should start embracing it more than sort of shying away from it.
Definitely. Absolutely. But look, moving along here, Peter, I was hoping you could tell people a bit about your background. I mean, obviously I know focal point coaching hasn't been the only thing that you've done, but I'm sure people would love to hear a bit about your story and how you got involved with focal point and what was happening before that.
Right. How much time do we have, Ben?
Well, there's no particular limit, Peter. No particular limit.
Excellent. Well, my story, I'll do the quick 10-minute rundown that I did at BX the other week, where I started life as a motor mechanic, as an apprentice. I left school at 16 years of age, started in a family business. So my father had started the business the year that I was born. And by the time that I was ready to go into that business, we progressed to, he had about 5 staff at the time. And so I did my apprenticeship, went through all of that, and it was just working. And the fact that I was working in the family business was, I was engaged probably for 60 to 70 hours a week, sometimes, rather than the 40 of all my co-workers that were working there as well. So that was one of the benefits of being in the family business. I sort of learned a really good work ethic along the way. In my mid-20s, my father decided that he was going to semi-retire and move up to the Gold Coast, and that he would leave the business to me to run. And for me, that was, whoa, I was great. I was working on the cars. But now all of a sudden I have to start thinking about a whole lot of different things as far as the business was concerned, as far as running it, getting the team together, the bookwork, how does it all work? So then we sort of did a crash course together with my father, and he sort of got me on board there. And I also searched around for, because I was always, even with the mechanical side of it, I was always looking for training. I love to learn more stuff all the time. You can never learn too much. And so I searched out, and I found that there was at Sydney Technical College, there was a course for automotive management. So I signed up, I contacted the TAFE and wanted to sign up for this course, but they didn't want to accept me because it had to be over 30 years of age to enter that course, because they didn't think there was somebody would be a manager at, younger than that. So that was their criteria. So anyway, after a bit of negotiation, explaining, I managed to get into that course. And actually at the BX meeting, I brought along my notes from that course, which was from 1988. And that really helped me along the way. Fast forward probably about 10 years after that, my parents decided to get divorced. So then all of a sudden they were financially pretty well off, but then they decided that when they divorced, they needed some money. So they actually offered to sell the business to me. I accepted that offer. We worked out a fair price for the business, and so then it was different for me at that stage. What changed for me then is that if for some reason we were having a bad week, and my parents were like, can I pay you the week after or whatever, that wasn't going to happen anymore because I was now going to pay the bank. So that's when I really had to focus in on getting every system process, make sure the work was coming in, follow up with clients, make sure the work was being done right, to really keep driving so we could pay the bills and have a successful business. About 4 years after that, I met a fellow called Stuart Carr, who was a business coach. And Stuart, actually, I worked with Stuart for 2.5 years. And he really helped me with all those little things that I was missing. My behavioral style, I was more of a problem solver. So if somebody came to me with a problem, I'd go to them and just, try and solve the problem for them. But what I realized, and what Stuart made me realize, is that I wasn't empowering my staff along and my team along to become those problem solvers themselves when I was always doing it for them. So after working with Stuart for a few years, and that was the big turnaround of the business. We defined what business we were actually in. Before I would have told you I was just servicing cars. After working with Stuart, I'll tell you now that we were in the business of the safety of not only my clients, but my clients' families and their children while they're on the road driving the cars that we were servicing. When our team had that sort of a outlook on what they were doing, it just created a total different feel to the whole business, and it just sort of moved along from there. I got to the business at the peak. We had 15 staff. Where I started to lose my passion for the actual cars. I started in a time where we were working on, classic. We're working on Mercedes-Benz and BMWs mainly.
Yeah,
and
just,
the cars
sorry
of
for
that
a
era.
second. Could I just cut you off there for a sec, Peter? We just cut out a bit there. Could you just go back to when you were talking about when you started to lose your passion for cars? There was this whole chunk where you were just paused there. Sorry to do that.
Okay. Yeah, that's funny. It's the internet. All right. And so I started, as the cars evolved and I started to lose probably my passion for the cars themselves and as part of the business. So when I started in the business, we were a specialist service looking after Mercedes-Benz, BMW cars. Those cars of the 60s and 70s and 80s were really classic, and they were so much above everything else that was out there. What I find with the more modern cars after, say, 2005, when they went to Daimler Chrysler and a whole lot of things happened there, they were just ordinary cars. And the way I felt, I was just passionate about the cars themselves. I actually stumbled across Focal Point by accident. I was sitting in my doctor's surgery, reading a magazine, and there was an advertisement there for Focal Point. I thought, and I'd remembered back about how Stuart had helped me, how I'd helped some of my ex-employees as they've left my business and started their own businesses, how I helped them through that road and helping them to build their businesses, because it was more about, because a lot of people, when they go out to start their own business, they're great at what they do, but they're maybe not so great about the business side of of what needs to happen. So that's why I help people along the way. And I thought, well, this would be a really great career for me, to do into my retirement. So I decided to not resist the change that I've normally used to resisting, and got up and did it. And I've been just over 2.5 years now, and it's working really well. I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. I love seeing my clients' businesses go forward. I like seeing them happier. I like seeing their teams happier. I like to see them make more money, and I think it's just it's a win-win all around.
Yeah, definitely. What I think is interesting, I mean, first of all, you're absolutely right that there's a lot of businesses out there and they're fantastic at what they do, but they don't understand the business side of things, the daily running of the business, or they're not really good at selling. They might even think that it's a dirty word, selling or marketing, that sort of stuff. But just because you're good at what you do doesn't mean you're great at being able to run the business of what you do or to sell it. But you were talking a bit about, what was it? You were talking about cars, and you were talking about, well, just finding that info about Focal Point coaching. You're just sitting there one day and you saw an ad for it. And it's just funny how like a little thing like that can turn into where we are now, like where you are now.
And change the direction of your life. You're right. And I don't know if you ever remember that movie called Sliding Doors.
Yeah. I just referenced that very recently, actually. Yeah.
Have you? Okay. Well, that's interesting. Like, exactly. So if I would have picked up a different magazine on that day, who knows what would have happened today? But I still think that I'd probably lost my passion for my last business, and I think if you do lose your passion and can't refocus on it, you're better off to get out of that business.
Well, it's interesting, and I've told this story before. I know people out there who got into copywriting because they didn't particularly like writing, but because they realized that you could, there's a lot of money to be made in it when you're at the top of your game. For me, I had different people suggesting it was something I should look into, and I didn't really know what copywriting was. I thought it was maybe writing legal or government documentation. So I had one person suggesting it, and I was just kind of like, that just throw enough shit at a wall and hope something sticks. But then I had other people who had never met these other people saying the same thing. And so I started going, maybe there's something in this. And I looked up what was involved with copywriting, and it started to click for me. It started to go, yeah, you know what? Like, this gives me all the sort of things that I would like in a job. It gives me the ability to, work autonomously, to write, and to help businesses. Because like you said, I had seen so many businesses where I almost felt sorry for them, because it was like, they do such a good job, but there's something wrong with how they're selling themselves, and they could be doing so much better in this regard and this regard. And it really comes back to when you talked about servicing the cars and reiterating that you're helping people to stay safe on the road. That's what it comes down to. And it was the same for me. Like, I could tell people that I do copywriting, but a lot of people even now don't actually fully understand what that is. So look, if I instead tell people that I help them to achieve their online business goals, or to achieve their business goals and give them their time back, then they're going to want to know how I do that. And if I realize that I can't help them with that in terms of what the skill set that I provide in terms of what Scribe can do for them, well, look, chances are that I know somebody else who can make it happen for them. So I know one way or another, they're going to get what they need.
Yeah, and it's interesting that any business that doesn't have a real vision of where they want to go and where they want to end up, and then maybe even have like a 10-year vision, and when they get close to that, rethink it. If they're going to achieve it, and then look at it again. And it's a never-ending. Strategic planning is I had a client reading the other week, and a prospect, and he wanted me to help him with his strategic plan. Because the last one they did 2 years ago didn't work. I said, well, what did you do about that strategic plan once you formulated it? Well, nothing. But it's a working document. You need to look at it every week, every month, every 90 days, and keep working on it all the time. It's not something that you can formulate now and put into a drawer and then expect it to just happen. It needs to be thought about all the time.
That's right. Well, it's interesting because Nathan in your group gave me that great book, 18 Minutes or something, which I'm going through at the moment. And it talks about the same thing about planning stuff out. And I mean, I knew all that, but it makes the point that you can get so involved in something that sometimes you need to just take some time out and step back and go, maybe we should readjust here, and maybe it's time to change this up. And yeah, it's absolutely spot on, as you just mentioned yourself, that sometimes you need to take a step back and to reevaluate what you're doing, and to see if you can change your direction even just a little bit.
That's right. One of the analogies that I use with some of the training that I do is an airplane flying from, say, Sydney to Hawaii. That's not a straight course. That pilot is firstly, he knows where he wants to go. After they take off, how many adjustments they do all the way to be able to actually arrive at their destination. They're course correcting all the time, and being in business is no different.
Absolutely. But look, if you could pinpoint one standout lesson that you've learned along the way on a personal and a professional level too, what would you say that it is, Peter?
For me, it's probably been write your goals every day. And the power of actually writing them down in the present tense, make them measurable, have an end date, and that brings out the power of having the goals, and you actually can achieve them. If you set your mind to it, it goes into your subconscious mind. And if you have written goals, time bound, measurable, do it daily. You've got, I think, about 90% more chance of achieving than people that don't write anything down.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's definitely better to have it all written out so you can actually see it as opposed to just thinking it. I agree with you on that one.
Yeah.
But
like I say that the goals that aren't written down, they're just a wish.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, isn't it? But to anybody who's starting a business, like, what would you say is the most important piece of advice that you'd offer them? Like, what should they keep in mind? Number one.
Why are they doing it?
That's a good one.
Why do they want to start their business? Maybe what they do, but what's that extra and have their own and start their own business.
Yeah, definitely. Like you've got to have that underlying reason for doing it, because as I think I wrote an article about this a little while ago, but I said, look, it doesn't matter what profession you go for. They've all got those things that they're a bit of a pain to do. They've got those things that are tedious, that are a bit time consuming. And if you're in the wrong gig, it just becomes so much worse, and it just becomes so much more frustrating having to do those things, because it's just like, oh, this again. Whereas if it's something and you've got the why spot on, as you just mentioned, then it's just part of the job, and you don't mind it so much. It's like, well, yeah, I've got to do this, but at least I've got all the rest of this going on, and I like that. This is just something that you have to deal with, and it's unavoidable.
Yeah, it's something that Simon Sinek made famous. He said, people buy why you do it, not what you do.
That's right. Yeah, and that's in one of the BX webinars as well that I've been. Yeah, it's in one of those BX webinars which I've been taking notes on and going back through slowly, just taking a look week by week. But yeah, I remember that bit from it too. But look, Peter, why should people reach out and contact you? Why should people give you a call?
That's a great question, and probably the main reason, if they just like to streamline, create a great culture in their business. Great culture creates great team. When you've got everybody rowing in the same direction in the business, you've got that clear vision. Everybody knows the purpose of the business, why they're doing it, what the business is focused on. It just creates a happy place for everyone to come and work, and the end result is that they usually make a great profit as well.
Well, that's always good, isn't it? Yeah. But look, are there any shout outs that you want to give, Peter?
I've got to give a shout out to your blog. If anybody hasn't read Ben's blog yet, I really have to recommend that they go on and have a look, because there's some really great stuff on there, and some of the stuff you've written about your personal life and everything, I really it just really brought it out home to me why you're doing what you're doing, and it's just there. It's just beautiful.
Cheers, Peter. Yeah, well, obviously I'm going to spruik my own blog, but it's nice to have somebody else who's enjoyed what they're reading too. But it's interesting what you said about reading about stuff that's happened to me throughout life and where I am now. I had a conversation, I think it was at the start of this year, with a contact of mine down in Melbourne, a guy by the name of Samar Lagoa. And for the people watching at home, that's another Words from the Scribe episode that you should definitely check out. That was a great discussion too. But he and I agreed on the same thing. It's like, I've seen so many things since I started Scribe where it suddenly becomes apparent that, like, it was almost a lesson that I had to learn. It was something that, it was like I had to do this business so that I could learn this and this and this and get these life lessons. And it's funny how you start out doing one thing and then it just teaches you so many other things that you just didn't expect. And, I remember back in 2016 when I did the 10-week Fight Like a Pro program, which is another article that I've read. Another article. Of course I read it. I wrote it. Another article that I wrote, and people should definitely check out at home. But it was that same thing, because I went into that boxing gym just because I wanted to learn to fight, learn a new form of self-defense discipline. But after that 10-week period, there were so many other little things that came up along the way that I just didn't expect to learn. I thought the guy Gavin who ran the gym was just giving it the big sell when he said, we have guys that come back all the time and they say it's the best thing they've ever done. And admittedly, I was just sitting there, I'm just thinking, yeah, sure, I get it. You're giving it the big sell, Gav. But look, he was absolutely spot on. And I couldn't have perceived that when I walked into that gym back in the winter of 2016, and that was what would happen. But it's so often the case, isn't it, that just, one little thing for you, just sitting there and reading an ad for Focal Point Coaching, or for me, having people that I just happen to come into contact with through, doing various things with my life, having people saying that I should go into copywriting. So yeah, it is funny in that sliding doors kind of way, isn't it?
It is.
But look, Peter, thanks for your time today, mate. I'm sure people are going to get a lot out of this. Now, what I'm going to do after we finish the call today is I'm going to put Peter's details down there for everybody who's at home watching. So if there's anything that you've heard today that resonates with you, then you'll have the details there to reach out and to contact Peter. As always, I'll include a link to my own blog as well, so you can go ahead and read those articles for yourself, which of course I strongly recommend. Other than that, thanks for dropping by today, Peter, and telling us a bit more about your own journey and about focal point coaching. Now, did you have anything that you'd like to say before we bring today's interview to a close?
The main thing that I'd urge everybody who owns a business to make sure that they have at least something in place that your employees, your team, know if they've had a great day or not. And that's probably one of the most powerful messages I can send out there right now for quickly.
Fantastic. All right. Thanks again, Peter, for dropping by. Otherwise, guys, that's another wrap on another episode of Words from the Scribe. Until next time, we'll catch you later.